Right. This was a pain in the ass. I recorded this thing already once, and then I realized that my computer was on the mute button. Um, so, there's that. So this is me recording it again. Sorry if I stutter. Whatever happens, happens. So now I gotta re-record my entire presentation again. So this is my costume design for the Laramie project, focused on intimacy, verisimilitude, and like a memory toned kind of palette. Um, so for oh my God, will it change? Okay. So for theater design, I chose a fresh stage with audience on three sides. I tried my best to kind of display that. The platform is low and minimally kind of masked, so the audience feels like they're in a room with the actors. Proximity and close quartersness is kind of what really drives the show and keeps the audience attached and not detached, like a proscenium stage would be, especially for those that would sit in the far back. That proximity kind of turns the testimony into conversation, and the play's interviews become direct and immediate. Sightlines are staggered, so actors can address different banked audiences and entrances through the aisles and house pockets, make movement feel civic and communal rather than theatrical. Um, I'm sorry if these images do not really show up very well. I did submit them on D2L for the, theater design part. Um, As far as scale goes, I think I meant for each of the little individual boxes to be around 5 feet in length. I didn't really draw the individual chairs here, um, but I'd at least like to think the building at least seats like 50 people, maybe 100. I didn't really know how to draw that, how the seats looked, but I intended the seats to be kind of bleacher style, like raised up at least a bit, so they can better see the stage without their view being blocked by people in front of them because it would piss me off. I also designed this theater with other shows in mind, so things aren't so far apart from each other. Um, well behind the stage, like costume rooms and um, laundry, bathrooms, that kind of stuff. Um, and then my visual research. Okay. So my Pinterest board, I ended up collecting a lot of late 90s Midwestern textures, a lot of like thrifted kind of looking things, um, and documentary photos that I found of either the show itself or just a bunch of photos that, like this one, that's actually the one photo from the show, or just things that are from Laramie or just Wyoming pictures in general. Um, so I kind of wanted to build like a grounded lived-in world with that. So I cross-referenced a lot of archival images as well from the um, from this site, which has basically every person that is listed in the cast for the most part, just about everybody. Um, it has them listed on the site what they originally looked like, and I took a lot of inspiration from those for their actual characters as well. So I kind of kept some of their costumes to look like the people they were meant to depict. Um, so I kind of wanted them to look more familiar rather than like caricature. Um, so where am I? Oh, the scene by God, I do not know where I am. So there's the scene by scene kind of breakdown sheet. I'm sorry it's so awkward. Um, because I submitted it earlier and it was not formatted correctly at all whatsoever. I had to put it at like 50% so everything could be seen because I did it pageless. But the scene sheet assigns each of the actors' roles with an eye toward the visible on stage changes. Every actor stays in their base costume on stage. Changes are always adding, removing pieces, jackets, hats, scarves, vests. So transmissions are immediate, legible. Um, Major swaps are still staged to like a specific, pocket of the stage, but most shifts are seconds and an actor will step forward, removes or adds a layer, and the audience kind of accepts the new person in real time. But most things are kind of accessory changes anyway. Again, I organized this in a pageless document at first, so it's a little awkward, but I sorted them by act and scene. This whole upper one is act one. I put actor, base outfit, their character, and then the costume that goes with which. And then here's all the scenes, and then I marked it based off of what they're in and how much time I realized I had, and then figured out costumes from there. Here's act two, see why it's all screwy. And then is that it? Oh yeah, it is. Okay. And then act three. I was like, this is not as long as the other ones. Um, so I did that. Um, where am I? I'm reading off my notes, so I know what to say. Um, I sorted them by act and scene. Um, oh, I built who would be available as ensemble roles and narrators based on the characters that they will play in the scenes before, during, or after. So I kind of made sure everyone is given ample time to switch between characters and roles and costume change. For the scene with multiple news people, I tried to like pick ensemble based off of availability and if I knew they had a blazer or a windbreaker or something like that that they could reuse. Um, anyway, for a costume, I don't need the Pinterest because I just ended up pasting them all on the slides anyway. Um, for costume, my goal was kind of intimacy and documentary truth. So using a memory tone kind of palette that kind of starts in monochrome and introduces small color pops as characters become more defined. Um, the costume palette is essentially kind of like memory, black, white, gray, navy. So the world kind of reads documentary and slightly removed. Um, the reason why I kind of went for that was like I looked at all these pictures that I had from my like research earlier, and I like they're kind of all neutral tones anyway. There's not like a whole lot of really color that pops to them to begin with. So I thought that I could detach the tectonic theater project people and stuff like that from the actual characters that are in the show that are interviewed by kind of keeping them in like a monochrome kind of color scheme. So I put them I wanted to kind of feel like a memory, if that makes sense. But I put them in like black, white, gray, navy, so the role kind of reads documentary like, slightly removed. Um, so as the play progresses, I introduce single color pops. As I'm kind of now speaking, I realize maybe not all of these have all the shoes that I wanted to put them for, but that's okay. This character's fine. Um, Majority of them are in black boots or dress shoes or some sort of that kind of stuff based off of the vibe of the characters that they overall more so fit. But anyway, for actor one for Stephen Belber, again, base outfits are all monochrome, so I put him in black boots, gray jeans, black and white flannel long sleeve. Um, Doc O'Connor is a limousine driver, so I gave him a leather jacket and a chauffeur hat because for most images of ones I've seen from older film and photos from that decade, they're all mostly kind of had this kind of vibe. Matt Galloway is a bartender at Fireside, so I decided to give him that Midwest look. I gave him a brown vest, and I thought that he could drape a red plaid dishcloth over his shoulders, so it kind of sells the whole bartender like look. Um, so for the anonymous friend of Aaron McKinney, I took inspiration from a few productions I saw. They kind of had him in a baseball cap sitting along the side in the more shadowy parts of the stage, and the brim on the hat was low enough so it kind of like shadowed his face, or like they curled the brim of the hat so it, you know, put that overcast look. Of course, the actor also tilted his head down slightly to sell the kind of anonymity. God, that word sucks. Anonymous look of the character. Tongue twister. So for the ball caps I add throughout this, I decided to give them all something that had to do with either Laramie or Wyoming or just the Midwest area itself. Um, Bill McKinney is a trucker, so I thought I'd just give him the that same the ball cap, and then also give him suspenders. why does every trucker have that? So Andrew Gomez, gave a pretty basic neutral hoodie. Fred Phelps, I decided to give him the exact look he had in the real life photos, which is that that guy. I'm sorry. Um, hate him as a character and a person. So where am I in my little list of? I have my descriptions on my phone so I can better get, get the things I wanted to say out. Um, Fred Phelps had decided to give him the exact look he had in the real life photos. I felt it was kind of important to showcase the foolery of said character, and for easiness, this tie, along with all the other ties that I do use throughout this entire thing, for simplicity's sake, are just clip-on ties because it makes it a lot easier. The Mormon spiritual advisor gave a clip-on. Conrad Miller is a mechanic, so I found the most basic button down that looks like what most mechanics at the time wear. So for actor two, Amanda, I had put in a black and white flannel button downs, dress pants, some Mary Jane kind of style dress shoes. I noticed she played a lot of characters that had warmth and compassion to them, so I gave her costume elements that kind of like sort of signified that. Um, So I gave Eileen a jacket that I think gave off the 90s rancher vibe. For Marge, I felt that she would be in a grandma cardigan because she's kind of out of pocket, and I felt that that's what most grandmas are like. So I felt um like the cardigan kind of fits her. I gave the Baptist minister a Catholic stole for Shadow since they are a DJ. I gave them a headset that I tried to fit closest to the 90s without all the wiring that mostly came with the headphones of that time. But if for accuracy purposes, you could pick out a 90s headset and then cut the wiring off, but that would actually kind of suck because they aren't usable anymore, and then things like that are kind of considered vintage nowadays anyway. But I digress. Um, News person one, I intended to keep them in the same rancher outfit just because the Midwest didn't really stay all that formal when it came to news people. It was just kind of like wear whatever is warm. So, um, for Mercedes, I gave the kind of dark navy or gray police pants and denim button down. Um, Reggie, I decided to give her a police hat and a standard police jacket. Rebecca Hilliker, I gave her a headband and a red brown kind of sienna corduroy jacket. Um, and then for the waitress, I decided to keep the same headband and added a cute Midwesty kind of cute apron that kind of matches it well. I just thought it looked really adorable, so I was like, this would go perfect with that headband. Um, so for the news person, I took inspiration from a couple of images online I found of just news people in blazers. If you just look up news people, 90s, Midwest, you just find this. But the blazers usually have like really defined shoulders and like really weird creases in them. They're very blocky, if that makes sense. Um, then there's actor four. I gave khakis and a lighter button down plaid top. Um, Philip Dubois, I gave a black blazer because he's the president of the University of Wyoming, and later on is a priest at the funeral, which I gave the Act 2 actor of Philip the same blazer. So they'll just trade. Stephen B. Johnson is a Unitarian, and I found that a lot of stoles that they wear had loads of color and cute art in them, so I wanted to pick out one that kind of gives off the initial impression with like white part that makes them seem very, very Catholic and the kind of, views they tend to hold. um, kind of like what's that guy's name? I cannot remember. Fred Phelps, that kind of asshole. So I decided that I would give one that kind of gives that illusion or look to it, and then that character really isn't like that at all. They're Unitarians, from what I've understood, is they're a lot more, and also the character itself. They're more inclusive, which is why I like the pops of colors and stuff that are on the stole here. So it kind of has like that. What's the word I'm looking for? it's kind of like an illusion. Like it makes you think that they're not going to be supportive, but they are. I don't know if I'm trying to say if that makes sense of what I'm trying to say or not. But then for Murdoch Cooper, I gave a basic Wyoming trucker hat since that's also what he is, I believe. Um, if I remember correctly. And then John Peacock, I gave a cardigan that kind of fits off the 1990s professor vibes. Dennis Shepard, I put him in a black blazer since at the time we see him, it's when his son passed on and he gave a statement at the very end of the show. Harry Woods, I decided to put in a scarf and the hat that matches the one in the real life photo that is down here. That is cute. Um, so, um, where am I? Oh, yeah. And then for a reporter, I gave a basic windbreaker that kind of has the words pressed on the back. Um, I think this is an actual UPS jacket now that I see the little thing on the side. Please ignore that. So, so for Andy Paris, I put some jeans, um, a flannel short sleeve boots. Jedediah has a crossbody. Oops. Jedediah has a crossbody leather bag and glasses to give off the university student look. I put Doug in a blazer and a red clip-on tie. Their Cantaway has that same tie, the doctor's lab coat, and the glasses. Um, in the book, Matt Mickelson was described as having a worn-out cowboy hat, so I gave him that. And then for both Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney, I put them in orange jumpsuits since when we see them or hear them is when it was like the trial section of the story. If the time doesn't permit, I would at least just make sure that they have an upper half of just like an orange top. Um, and then for Philip Dubois, again, use the one the other actor had and then have a clip-on tie. I don't know why the image is hanging off the side there. That's kind of funny. Um, and then for Carrie Drake, he's a reporter for the Casper Star Tribune, which has a kind of yellowy black blue color scheme from the logos, or at least what I found on the internet. So I gave him a windbreaker that had those colors. Um, for Greg, I gave him jeans, button down short sleeve, dress shoes. Um, Sergeant Hing has a Wyoming baseball cap of some sort, a thicker fleece flannel zip up. Phil Labrie gets a cardigan. Roger Schmidt ends up getting the same stole as the other actor from earlier. Brulon Stacy has a black clip-on tie and a gray blazer. Uh, Rob Debris has a blue fleece-lined jacket with badge on the pocket and a police hat. And Jonas has a bandana tied into a bow. Barbara Pitts, I have put in a white shirt, gray button down, um, dress pants. And for Catherine, I ended up putting them just in glasses. April, I kind of found like a gray kind of fashiony cadet cap and a light blue cardigan. Um, Zubaida Ula, I gave a headscarf, obviously. And then Sherry, I um, ended up giving them it's a scarf. Um, so then for Lucy, they have the same blue gray kind of cardigan. Eileen Ng in Act 2 has the same one from Act 1. Whoa! Kelly Simpkins, I gave a dark navy t-shirt, button down, um, dirty jeans. Zachy has a blue. Had to switch the side shirt first. Zachy has a blue bandana tied around their neck and a black cowboy hat. Allison Mears just has glasses that I put them on. Romaine gets a leather jacket because the script says so, and then the same blue bandana just put on the top of their head. Aaron Kreifels has a vintagey Patagonia beanie. Um, Tiffany has a windbreaker with press on the back since she's, also a reporter. Um, for most of the ensemble, they'll just be in their base, but if time permits, I have like angel costumes that are kind of like fire gowns. Um, so they have like the drapery kind of vibe, so they when they lift their wings, it looks um, will lift their arms, it looks like wings. So, and then for the judge, obviously, just put them in black judge robes. If they can't do it in time, then they can't do it in time. But yeah. I intended for the color to kind of be used sparingly as like punctuation. The entire story is about a really sad, disheartening event, so I tried to match colors that either represented what the real life person wore, or colors that represented the feelings and emotions that are kind of displayed through the characters throughout the show. They're all like really small, deliberate choices, so color kind of reads like as a visual accent or footnote, never really a costume change that like is super distracting was my goal. Um, all these choices kind of work together to keep the audience close, preserve the documentary voice, and let the characters' humanity come through in lived, recognizable clothing. Um, the thrust staging brings the town into the house. The palette kind of keeps the play in memory, and the costume system keeps the storytelling moving without spectacle. I really, really hope the audio recorded this time. I'm so sorry that all of this came in late, but yay, that's my presentation. I finally got it done. Am I still recording? I cannot figure this out. Um, God, okay. Let me figure this out. It doesn't show me how to stop. There it goes.